Part 50. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Dalby in the World. Chapter 491. Chapter 491, Seducing Other People's Husbands Too. Jian Yunyun suddenly remembered that Jian Yuman called him husband just now. Could it be that the handsome guy in front of her was her cousin's husband? Looking at the expensive suit he was wearing, his temperament was elegant and charming. Judging from her eyes, it was verified that the best man was definitely the best among men. Why is such an outstanding man Jian Yuman's husband? God is so unfair. Jian Yunyun, who was badly beaten, rushed over and hugged Tang Yu's calf to ask for help. Cousin-in-law, please save Yunyun, please save Yunyun. Tang Yu frowned in disgust. Seeing the lipstick on her face melting away with tears, almost rubbing against his calf, he wanted to kick her away. Jian Yuman sneered when he saw this scene. What kind of cousin-in-law? I have nothing to do with you, let alone your cousin. Don't have any relationship. She still remembers the excessive things her uncle did to her back then. He wanted to use her to marry Mr. Lu to benefit Kinjia's business. Later, when it became clear that her mother had been secretly taken away, he also lied to her that her mother was dead, made a fake tombstone, made her cry for a day, and forced her to get married. With such a vicious uncle, she had completely severed all ties with her uncle's family after the last incident. Now that they are in trouble, they hug Mr. Tang's thigh and call him cousin-in-law. Do you want to lose face? The noise inside disturbed the outside. Seeing that Tang Yu entered the women's restroom but didn't come out, he was immediately notified to Toyanbi, the owner of the charity auction, who immediately walked in with someone. Uncle Jian, who had been waiting for his daughter to come back for a long time, also walked in with the large team and saw Jian Yunyun's embarrassed appearance. The person who recognized Jian Yunyun holding her thigh was not Jian Yuman's man, Mr. Tang, who had taught him a hard lesson. When I saw my daughter being beaten again, she immediately cried and screamed. Yunyun, what's wrong with you? Why were you beaten so badly? Who beat you, my precious daughter? Everyone's eyes were focused on Jian Yunyun and Tang Yu, wondering what their relationship was. The onlookers looked at each other with complicated expressions, as if Jian Yunyun and Tang Yu were having an affair. Jian Yuman was so jealous that she rushed to their side and roughly pulled Jian Yunyun away. Jian Yunyun, I'm warning you, you deserve to be beaten for seducing someone else's husband just now. Don't even think about pestering my husband, be careful and I'll teach you a lesson too. Jian Yuman held Tang Yu's waist possessively and swore an oath. She has her own sovereignty. The man next to her is her husband. Even if it's her calf, she won't give it to Jian Yunyun. Jian Yunyun was beaten badly, and countless mocking eyes looked at her, and she immediately started crying in grievance. Cousin, I don't know why I was beaten for no reason, but why did you watch me being beaten and watch from the sidelines? Do you hate me so much? I asked my cousin-in-law for help, but you didn't let me. I'm yours, my cousin, your mother is my aunt. Jian Yunyun cried sadly, disguising herself as an innocent person. Don't get involved with relatives, I don't have any relationship with you. Jian Yuman ruthlessly rejected their relationship. She has nothing to do with Jian Chenggan's family for a long time. The noble lady who beat Jian Yunyun was also experienced in the world. She immediately recognized Tang Yu's identity, frowned with some annoyance, and then walked out with a smile on her face. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Dalby in the World. Chapter 492. Chapter 492, Seducing Other People's Husbands 3. The lady was also a discerning person and immediately stepped forward to help Jian Yuman. Mrs. Tang, I'm sorry. I admitted the wrong person just now. Please forgive me for almost hurting you. As for this woman, I will teach her a lesson. She dares to seduce my husband. This kind of woman should be thrown out. The noble lady glared at Jian Yunyun and raised her hand to hit her, but Jian Chengan stopped her in front of her and prevented her from hurting her precious daughter. It's okay, you handle your affairs well, we'll leave first. Jian Yuman nodded with a smile, raised her head and said to Tang Yuj. Mr. Tang, let's go. Seeing that Jian Yuman and his wife were about to leave, Jian Yunyun was frightened and clutched her father's back tightly. Cousin, why do you not recognize your relatives when you climb a high branch? How could you be like this? Tang Yuj stopped and looked at Jian Yunyun with cold and terrifying eyes. Those eyes were as if he wanted to kill Jian Yunyun, which made people shudder. Toyanbai saw that Tang Yuj was angry, trembled and came over immediately. Yuj, the auction is about to start. You go there first, and I'll take care of things here. Tang Yuj pointed coldly at Jian Yunyun, who was shivering on the ground. Throw out this woman who ruined my wife's reputation, and her father too. Upon hearing this, Jian Chengan shouted with an ugly face. Mr. Tang, don't drive us away. After all, we are also your wife's relatives. Why are you so cruel? If you throw her out, how will he see anyone in the future? Tang Yuj sneered and hugged his wife. Fellow? Are you worthy? I remember clearly how you treated Jian. Tang Yuj stopped talking nonsense with him, hugged Jian Yuman and walked out while giving orders coldly. Action! Tang Yuj's bodyguard, who was hiding in the dark, suddenly jumped out, grabbed Jian Chengan and his daughter, pulled them in an ostentatious manner, and slowly walked out of the charity auction site, throwing him directly out of the main entrance. He was thrown hard. Especially hard. Jian Yunyun, who was surrounded by people along the way, had never felt such humiliation, and this humiliation was given to her by Jian Yuman. Jian Yunyun was so angry that Jian Chengan couldn't possibly feel better. She pulled her daughter and left quickly. I'm so angry, Dad, Jian Yunyun shouted angrily, her whole body trembling. Jian Chengan's expression wasn't much better and he held his daughter's hand. Daughter, we must avenge the humiliation we suffered today. We will also avenge the previous revenge in San Francisco. Tang Yuj deliberately put pressure on Mr. Liu before, causing them to lose a lot of money. They were not even able to develop in San Francisco, so they took the whole family to leave San Francisco to develop. Finally opening up some avenues in Berlin, today Tang Yuj flamboyantly threw them out, not indirectly telling him that Jian Chengan was someone Tang Yuj hated. I'm afraid there won't be a place for them in Berlin in the future. Almost all the celebrities in Berlin were present today. It's impossible for them to hang around here. At first, it was not clear what Tang Yuj's identity was. I only knew that Mr. Liu used to call him Mr. Tang, but now he knows. I heard that Mr. Tang, the chairman of the Emgrand Group, will attend today, and looking at Toynbee's attitude towards him, it couldn't be clearer. Jian Yuman's husband is Mr. Tang, the chairman of the Emgrand Group. Unexpectedly, she would marry Mr. Tang 3 months later. What kind of person is Mr. Tang? They cannot afford to offend him at all. Today's 8th update is over. Are there any unfinished ideas? If you want His Majesty to add more updates, then bring me the tickets. The quantity is good, Your Majesty will add more. Moi. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Dalby in the World. Chapter 493. Chapter 493, Snatching the Auction Items 1. Normal people will be afraid when they know they have offended a big shot, but Jian Chengan, Jian Yunyun, and his daughter are trying their best to get revenge on Jian Yuman. However, their abilities are far from enough and they are not even qualified to play with Jian Yuman. After leaving the toilet, Jian Yuman was in a good mood and couldn't help humming. So happy. It's not you, you gave me a big sigh of relief. It's so satisfying to see Qian Yunyun and the others with their defeated faces. Qian Yuman laughed so hard that her branches trembled, and she sweetly praised Tangyuj for a long time, which made Tangyuj smile and feel happy. Everything has gotten better. However, next Tangyuj was very depressed, very depressed. Just now, he was what his wife called a good husband. She wanted to stick to him all the time, and he enjoyed it quite a lot. Unexpectedly, within 5 minutes, Fei Fanfan and Chang Junyi appeared in front of them. Qian Yuman thanked Fei Fanfan for the rescue just now. The two chatted and ate snacks and talked about everything. They chatted so happily that they almost forgot about the two brothers Tangyuj. The two little girls are about the same age, and the content of their chats is similar. Especially when it comes to Qian Yuman's pregnancy, Fei Fanfan, who has a 4-year-old child, actively teaches how to take care of the child and how to raise the child to be fat and white. The two women got on, almost ignoring Tangyuj and Chang Junyi. Even when the auction started, the two of them were still sitting together chatting quietly. Tangyuj and his friend looked at each other and smiled, showing helpless expressions at the same time. The charity auction began. The host actively introduced the purpose of the charity auction, and each of them had a list of items to be auctioned tonight. Qian Yuman and Fei Fanfan gathered together with the booklet to discuss. Fanfan, do you think this bracelet is particularly beautiful? You feel like it belongs to me? Qian Yuman pointed to a crystal diamond bracelet and said. The bracelet is particularly delicate and beautiful. It is composed of crystals and diamonds. There is also a cat-shaped crystal at the end of the bracelet. It is very small and very delicate. It cannot be made with poor craftsmanship. It is amazing that non-Vatican seeing. Wow, it's really beautiful, so pretty, I like it so much. Fei Fanfan looked at her and her eyes lit up. But since Manman values it first, I won't compete with you tonight. Thank you Fanfan. Qian Yuman happily held Fei Fanfan's face, kissed her heavily on the face, and rubbed her head. Fei Fanfan also smiled cutely. Beside them, Tangyuj and Chang Junyi's eyes bulged out. The two women looked at each other today, and Chang Junyi's eyes almost pierced Qian Yuman. Fanfan didn't even kiss him today, but he actually kissed Qian Yuman. Tangyuj reached out and patted his good brother on the shoulder, narrowing his eyes. What are you doing? Look at my wife. Looking at her so seriously, go look at your own woman. The two brothers looked at each other and once again showed helpless expressions. There was no way they could separate Qian Yuman and the others who were chatting happily. The charity auction started. Qian Yuman and Fei Fanfan still gathered together. They started talking about some of the things they liked. They couldn't help but admire when they saw that some items had been auctioned at astonishing prices. Fei Fanfan, these people are really rich. They spend tens of millions on a vase. Qian Yuman, it's a waste, how nice it is to give it to me. Fei Fanfan, here it is, remember to share it equally with me. The two women paused for a moment, then laughed together. Another update, don't love me too much. Don't forget to vote. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 494. Chapter 494, Snatching the Auction Items too. With the charity auction intensifying, Qian Yuman also took a fancy to a jewelry box, which looked very gorgeous and beautiful, and her heart was moved just by looking at it. The auction started, and Tangyuj raised his sign gun consciously. The appearance of the jewelry box is made of gemstones. It is about half a meter long and 30 centimeters high. It is bright red and very beautiful. The beautiful jewelry box naturally attracted the attention of many women, and there were also many bidders. The starting price of the jewelry box was 300,000 yuan. When Qian Yuman heard about it, she felt luxurious. The jewelry box might be more expensive than the jewelry inside. Valuable. However, Tangyuj still bid for her. When the price reached 1 million, Jian Yuman was about to stop Tang Yuj from bidding when she heard a female voice shouting, 2 million. Everyone looked at the person who shouted 2 million in surprise. Jian Yuman couldn't help but look over. She didn't want to buy it after 1 million. But when she saw that the person bidding was actually Wang Qianqian, she immediately wanted to tease her. Jian Yuman snatched the sign from Tang Yuz's hand, raised it and shouted, 2 million and 1 million. Wang Qianqian looked over and saw Jian Yuman. She glared at her angrily, seeing that she had deliberately snatched her. How could she swallow this breath? She had been embarrassed in front of Zhu Shaowai just now. Wang Qianqian thought about the money she had, and Zhu Shaowai said that today she would be given 5 million to take photos of things she likes. She gritted her teeth and shouted, 3 million. Jian Yuman raised her sign again with a smile. 3 million and 1 million. She has a lot of money and is very happy to play with her. I didn't know how rich Tang Yuj was before, but now that I know, I won't be polite to him. I will try my best to exploit her husband's pocket, but I won't be able to spend all the money anyway. Wang Qianqian looked at Jian Yuman with an even fiercer look, and was very hesitant to continue shouting. She liked this jewelry box very much, and the important thing was that Jian Yuman was grabbing it. If you can't steal a man, can't you also steal a jewelry box? 3.5 million. Wow! There were sighs from all around. Instead of thinking how awesome she was, everyone regarded her as a rich man. It would have been great if the jewelry box could be sold for up to 800,000 yuan. It actually sold for 3.5 million yuan, and more. Laugh at? Jian Yuman has almost played with it, so naturally he won't continue to take pictures. He never thought of buying it in the first place. Wang Qianqian, an idiot, thought she had been photographed, and looked proud and happy. Little did she know that Jian Yuman had already laughed in her heart and said that she had gone outside. The auction items were auctioned off one by one. Jian Yuman finally saw the diamond and crystal bracelet that she liked very much. She grabbed Tang Yuz's clothes and said excitedly, "Dear husband, I must get this bracelet." The auction price of the diamond bracelet was 1 million, and Wang Qianqian also liked it. When the auction first started, Jian Yuman noticed it and repeated her old trick, always getting 10,000 more than the number she shouted, which almost made Wang Qianqian angry. Died. If it were filmed, her money would not be enough for her to spend too much. Thinking of the scenes of being bullied by her before, she gritted her teeth and screamed. 3 million. Wang Qianqian gritted her teeth and shouted. She couldn't afford any more money, and she was really hesitant to continue filming. Jian Yuman looked at her with mocking eyes. Are you richer than her? Haha, isn't this a joke? Jian Yuman raised the racket and continued shouting. 3 million and 1 million. Wang Qianqian stood up angrily. Should she lose to Jian Yuman? Not willing to give in. 3 million and 2 million, no more, it's the limit. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 495. Chapter 495, Snatching Auction Items 3. This time, before Jian Yuman could shout, another girl who liked it directly raised the price and shouted out 5 million. Wang Qianqian was angry when she heard this, and another person robbed her. Snort. Even if she couldn't get it, she didn't believe Jian Yuman could afford it. She had been deliberately teasing her since just now, and she could tell. At this moment, Wang Qianqian didn't know that Jian Yuman was the wife of Mr. Tang from the Emgrand group. She thought she was an ordinary person and had found a good man as her backer. However, she didn't know that she was left behind after comparing money from beginning to end. Jian Yuman raised the sign and shouted. 5.5 million. She really liked it and had to get it today. The rich man on the other side raised the money to 7 million. Jian Yuman almost rolled his eyes. This was too expensive. Honey, if I continue to shoot, Will I make you poor? Or maybe you think your wife is too good at spending money and abandon me. Jian Yuman couldn't help but worry. She really liked her, but 7 million, she couldn't afford to pay for it if she sold it. Tang Yuj stretched out his hand, gently held Jian Yuman's hand, smiled lovingly at her, and raised the sign to shout for her. 10 million. Tang Yuj's shout made the host's eyes light up on the stage, and the audience all looked over to see which rich man bought a bracelet for 10 million. When he saw that it was Tang Yuj who was worth tens of billions, he knew instantly that he was right. To others, it's just a small amount of money. Jian Yuman looked at Wang Qianqian with disgust and shook her head proudly. She knew that she would have to be stupid to fight with her. Her husband is handsome and rich, and you can't afford to fight. Tang Yuj was already shouting the price, but the wealthy lady stopped shouting just now. She didn't want to offend Tang Yuj. In the end, this bracelet became the most expensive jewelry auction item in tonight's auction. Jian Yuman and Jian Yuman chatted very happily. When they saw something they liked very much, as long as Fei Fanfan got a little excited, Chang Junyi next to her would take pictures for her. Then Fei Fanfan didn't understand why. It costs so much money to shoot, but the silly and sweet Fei Fanfan didn't realize it at all. This was Chang Junyi's way of making her happy. Jian Yuman was different. When she saw something she liked, Tang Yuj would take pictures for her before she could say anything. Every time she took a picture, Jian Yuman would say a bunch of sweet words to make Tang Yuj happy. When Jian Yuman got the bracelet, she cherished it and was cautious, lest she bump into it. Husband, I didn't think you were that rich before. Since you spent a fortune today and spent 10 million to buy this bracelet, I have to admire your ability to have money. Tang Yuj smiled slightly and said shamelessly. Now do you feel that you are the happiest woman in the world, to be able to marry such a rich husband like me? Jian Yuman nodded stupidly. Very lucky. The lucky ones are about to fly. Mr. Tang, I love you to death. Jian Yuman jumped up with a smile, hugged Tang Yuj and shouted affectionately. Tang Yuj didn't expect her to come out so suddenly. He was slightly stunned. A strange feeling spread in his heart. He unconsciously showed a doting smile on his face and gently rubbed her head. Have fun. Happy, happy, so happy. Jian Yuman hugged him tightly. Although Mr. Tang had not fallen in love with her yet, she felt so happy. His pampering made her almost become a princess. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 496. Chapter 496. Tang Feishan also joins in the fun one. Now all that is left is for Tang Yuj to fall in love with her. She is very confident that it is only a matter of time. Sooner or later, he will be tempted by her. If you continue to hold me, you can't go home, Tang Yuj teased. Hey, I'll continue to hold him. Jian Yuman buried her face in Tang Yuj's chest, listening to his sonorous and powerful heartbeat. Is it because she has an illusion and feels that Mr. Tang's heartbeat is extremely fast? Could it be that he is beginning to be attracted to her? This is a good sign. Jian Yuman smiled sillily. Regardless of whether it was true or not, she was so happy that she was about to fly up and hug Tang Yuj even more closely. Jian Yuman acted shamelessly, and Tang Yuj had no choice but to drag her delicate buttocks and slowly walk outside. At the same time, he couldn't help teasing Jian Yuman. If you don't mind a lot of people watching us show our affection, I don't mind performing another French kiss with you here. Really? After hearing this, Jian Yuman looked at Tang Yuj with shining eyes. Do she really want to perform a French kiss in front of outsiders? She was still a little excited and a little excited. She had never kissed a man in front of others. Tang Yuj lowered his head and smiled slightly when he saw Jian Yuman's shining eyes. As expected, This did not scare her. Following what he wanted to do most, Tang Yuj lowered his head and kissed Qian Yuman's red lips, and at the same time uttered a whisper of love and helplessness. You were defeated. Qian Yuman was at the charity auction, in a small corner that was not very private. They hugged each other and kissed passionately. Qian Yuman almost dropped the tens of millions of bracelets in her hands. The two of them kissed indifferently, and naturally many people witnessed it. Fei Fanfan covered his eyes with a blushing face, and his ears turned red. Jun Jun, I'm so embarrassed. Let's go. Ignore them, it's so embarrassing. Chang Junyi looked at the little woman in his arms with gentle eyes and said with a slightly jealous tone. Fan Fan, should we imitate them? You and your siblings have kissed just now, but you haven't kissed yet today. He was a little unhappy and a little jealous. Upon hearing this, Fei Fanfan blushed even more and looked at Chang Junyi in disbelief. Jun Jun, I didn't expect you to be such a person. I. Chang Junyi put his arm around her waist, moved closer to her, and smiled slightly. What kind of person am I? Sex. Fei Fanfan blushed so hard that he almost bled, and slapped him on the face. The castle has been particularly lively these days. Since the two of them joined Murongye and Fang Qingguo, another heavyweight has arrived, Tang Feishan. Qian Yuman would never tell her sister that she was the one who called Tang Feishan. In the past few days, Murongye has been like a sticky candy, following Qi Lili around, unable to fight or drive her away. No matter what he does, he sticks to Qi Lili. Qi Lili was originally out to relax, but suddenly she turned into a fly and disturbed her fun. Qian Yuman saw that her sister was in such distress, so why not help her to make things more lively, so she secretly contacted Tang Feishan, and by the way, Qi Lili was on her side, and Murongye was following her. Told my brother-in-law everything. As soon as Tang Feishan heard that Murongye was here, he immediately flew to Berlin overnight. Just such a day with fresh air and the fragrance of birds and flowers has led to the most lively day in the castle. Lili, everyone who was having a barbecue under the shade of a tree heard someone calling. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 497. Chapter 497. Tang Feishan also joins in the fun too. It's the end of July now, and the temperature in Berlin is on the low side, which is suitable for escaping the summer heat. The summer temperature is around 20 degrees. Today the weather is a little hot, at 27 degrees. However, they still can't resist these young men and women's hobby of having barbecues in the garden. Everyone who was having a barbecue under the shade of a tree heard someone shouting, and this call immediately attracted the attention of everyone who was grilling. Qian Yuman and others were having a barbecue when they heard a gentle voice calling, and everyone looked up. The person who came was none other than Qi Lili's boyfriend, Shishi. Lili also ran to Berlin because she was avoiding Tang Feishan. Unexpectedly, people came after her after a few days of hiding. Qi Lili's hand that was focusing on stroking Qian Yuman stopped, and with cold eyes, she saw Tang Feishan with an elegant and warm smile, and the expression on her face changed slightly. Why is he here? Murongye, who was sticking to Qi Lili and said he wanted to give her a hand, immediately jumped up when he heard the sound, and his hand pointing at Tang Feishan was trembling. Why is this guy here too? Someone must have tipped off the news, hoo. He was so angry. Second brother, you are finally here. Tang Xingai flew to his brother's side, held his hand, and then accused Murongye. Second brother, you don't know what this did when you were away. If you don't come, second sister-in-law will become someone else's sister-in-law. Tang Xingai lowered his head and pretended to cry, accusing Murongye of his crimes. Qi Lili grabbed the bamboo stick and shot it at Tang Xingai and said coldly. What nonsense, are you kidding? Tang Xingai ducked away quickly and hid behind Tang Feishan. Second brother, have you seen that the second sister-in-law has started to defend that man? You are going to fall out of favor. Tang Xingai's voice was sad, gloating, and more naughty. Tang Feishan naturally would not take what his brother said seriously, but he looked at Mirongye with a somewhat provocative look. Mirongye's intention towards Li Li was too obvious. Tang Feishan walked slowly to Qi Li Li's side and nodded politely to Mirongye. Please give up your position. At this moment, Mirongye was almost standing next to Qi Li. On the other side of Qi Li was Qian Yuman, and the three of them were busy around the oven. Tang Feishan wanted to drive Mirongye away, so he stood beside Qi Li. How could Mirongye be willing? He snorted coldly. Why should I stand in this position? I want to say a few words to my girlfriend, please excuse me. Tang Feishan still spoke gently. I don't. Mirongye still said no, and even got closer to Qi Li, and gave Tang Feishan a provocative look. Tang Feishan's eyes darkened. Qi Li, who was turning the barbecue for Qian Yuman, narrowed her eyes and immediately shot Mirongye with a horrifying look. She kicked Mirongye unceremoniously. Mirongye couldn't dodge and fell out with a clang, moving out of position. Tang Feishan immediately took the opportunity to run to Qi Li and smiled softly at her. Li, are you having fun these days? Before Qi Li could answer, a nosy man came between the two heads. Li and I have had a lot of fun these days. You don't have to worry that Li will be bored. You don't know how many places we have been to these days. Because we had so much fun, Li and I both wanted to settle here. Idea. Get out! Qi Li shouted at Mirongye, who was talking nonsense. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 498. Chapter 498. Tang Feishan also joined in the fun. 3. Mirongye didn't mind being yelled at all. He was used to it anyway. During this period, he was often yelled at by Qi Li. If he had no shame, he would never be alive today. Tang Feishan pretended not to hear, and the movements of his hands joined the rhythm of the barbecue. As an outsider, Qian Yuman suffered from the love triangle here and felt a little bitter. This is something I did myself. After much thought, I finally decided not to stay here. Sister, just continue baking as I did before, while I go to the toilet. After saying this, Qian Yuman ran away, leaving the three of them a chance to argue. Mirongye was happy when he saw Qian Yuman leaving. He immediately jumped to Qian Yuman's original position and stood to the left of Qi Li. Li, the voice you yelled at me just now was so good that it almost made me cry. Can you yell at me a few more words? Mirongye demanded shamelessly. Qi Li rolled her eyes at him, and even Mirongye's love rival Tang Feishan couldn't help but show sympathy to him. It was so shameless, but he could still persevere. It was amazing. Get out of here, do you know how to bake? Don't take my sister's place, she will come later, Qi Li said coldly. Mirongye had no intention of giving up his position. Qi Li took action directly, grabbed his neck and pulled him aside, and moved to Qian Yuman's position. She could see that her sister ran away on purpose. Tang Feishan, Li, how do you do this? Mirongye, Li, it seems better. Tang Feishan, the weather is nice today, how long do you plan to bake for? Mirongye, Li, this taste is not good enough. Add some chili pepper. Tang Feishan, is it hot or not? Do you want me to get you some drinks? Mirongye, Li, you're going to be scorched, turn over quickly. Chilale, get out of here. It's all so annoying. Qian Yu ran to Tang Yuj in a hurry. At this moment, Tang Yuj was lying on a chair under the shade of a tree. Next to him was Wang Tianyue, who was sitting in a wheelchair and basking in the sun outside. This was the only quiet day the two brothers stayed together after many years of separation. Neither of them spoke to each other. But it wasn't quiet either, because there was Fang Qingguo in the middle. The happiest person is Fang Qingguo. He talks to his eldest cousin whom he has been in love with since childhood, and to the handsome Wang Tianyu from time to time. Fang Qingguo, who was entrusted to take care of Wang Tianyu these days, did his duty and took good care of Wang Tianyu. He was definitely better than a professional nurse. It's just that Wang Tianyu's retinas are pitiful. Every day he sees a huge piece of meat dangling in front of him. From the shock when he opened his eyes and saw Fang Qingguo for the first time, to the unbearable vomiting, to the subsequent acceptance, he experienced huge psychological changes in the past few days. Everything is still passively accepted, and she has no other choice but to accept it. Because the frantic Qian Yuman did not arrange servants and medical staff for him, Fang Qingguo was the only one. Either choose no one to take care of you, or choose Fang Qingguo. It is not advisable to do too much strenuous exercise these days. If Wang Tianyu wants to get better soon, he has to accept it. He has been scolding Qian Yuman in his heart these past few days, and he was so angry that a few gray hairs came out of his head. However, there was nothing that could be done to her, but she was relieved that Fang Qingguo was very professional and was well taken care of. End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 499. Chapter 499. He has someone in his heart. 1. The only thing he couldn't accept was Fang Qingguo's appearance. Now he was used to closing his eyes. As long as he couldn't see Fang Qingguo, with his powerful brain capacity, he could imagine a virtual Fang Qingguo in front of him. Only in this way could he make him comfortable. Qian Yuman came to Tanyu's side and held up the freshly grilled mutton skewers to Tanyuj with a smile. Mr. Tang, it's ready. Qian Yuman presented the treasure. Fang Qingguo fell in love with Qian Yuman's craftsmanship since he tasted her craftsmanship, and snatched half of it away before Tanyuj could take over. Qian Yuman had already expected the situation to happen, so he took a relatively large amount. Tanyuj took the kebab and took a bite immediately. Yeah. Wife, it tastes particularly delicious. It's as delicious as the food in heaven. Fang Qingguo had already eaten 3 skewers in one go and couldn't help but admire them. My cousin's cooking is really amazing. Qingguo loves to eat it. It's really delicious. It was so delicious that she almost shed tears. How can it be delicious? Wang Tianyu swallowed a sip of water and turned his head to snort arrogantly. He would not believe that it was delicious. Qian Yuman looked at Wang Tianyu's awkward look in a funny way. You must be arrogant. Tanyuj saw Tianyu's twisted look, biting it exaggeratedly, and making sounds of enjoyment at the same time. Yeah. It's delicious, so delicious, wife. Why is it so delicious? I love your craftsmanship so much. Fang Qingguo also joined in the fun. Cousin, I'll leave these 2 paralyzed people in your care. I'll go over there and get a few more strings. Fang Qingguo disappeared immediately and went to wait for food by the oven. Wang Tianyu's face looked ugly, and there was more and more saliva in his mouth. If he opened his mouth, the saliva would definitely flow down. Even if he didn't eat it, the aroma wafting in the air told him how delicious it was. In addition, he had tasted Qian Yuman's cooking before, so he knew that her cooking was very good. He happened to be injured and had many taboos, so he couldn't eat these flaming barbecues. He tried to tell himself that the food was not delicious, but the fragrance kept coming. Qian Yuman had already bent over with a grin, looked at Tanyuj, and continued to perform the drama of a good wife and a greedy husband. Qian Yuman transported some roasted chicken wings to Tanyuj on the way. Wang Tianyu was so tempted that he almost collapsed and exploded. You did it on purpose. You ate it in front of me on purpose. Why did you push me out to bask in the sun? What about the sun? You just grilled it on purpose to tempt me. Tianyuman said with a smile. Really? I didn't push you in the sun because I was afraid you would get heat stroke, so I kindly pushed you under the shade of a tree. Humph, Wang Tianyu snorted arrogantly. I once stayed motionless for 5 or 6 hours under the 35-degree Sunday. This temperature is nothing. It's not the same thing at all. Oh, Tianyuman looked unbelieving. Tianyuman thought that Tang Feishan was the only guest today. Unexpectedly, less than 10 minutes later, another person came. Brother Yuj, hello everyone. Murong 11, who was wearing casual clothes, walked in dragging his suitcase. Murong Ye looked up and saw his sister, and immediately jumped up, rushed to her sister, and gave her a warm hug. Sister, you are finally here. You know that my brother was bullied so badly when you were not around. Come and help me. It's so pitiful these days, bullied by everyone, and even Wang Tianyu bullied him honestly. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the world. Chapter 500. Chapter 500. He has someone in his heart too. Brother, image, where is the image of your male god? Murong 11 couldn't help teasing her brother. Before, when Murong Ye was outside, he had the image of a domineering president. Whoever saw him didn't give him a look. This was not only because he was the president of the Emgrand Group, but also because he was known for his ruthless tactics towards competitors in the mall. He gave people a kind of not feeling offended. Since entering the trap of the two sisters Qi Lili and Tianyuman, the image of a domineering president has gone forever, and I am bullied to the point of crying every day. Sister, don't worry about these details, okay? Oh, Murong 11 responded coldly, but the corners of his mouth curved widely to mock his brother. Tangyuj stood up from the recliner and greeted him with a smile on his face. 11, you're finally here. Get this noisy brother of yours away. He's almost disturbing me to death. Tangyuj naturally handed one of the kebabs in his hand to Murong 11. Murong 11 took the kebab from Tangyuj's hand and stuffed it into his mouth, showing an expression of surprise. Tasty. That's it? Don't look who did this. My wife did it. Tangyuj held his chin up as if he did it himself. Murong 11 smiled and lowered his eyes as he ate the kebab in his hand, feeling the deliciousness of the kebab, but his hand couldn't help but tremble slightly. Murong Ye also offered the roasted enoki mushrooms in his hand to his sister as a treasure. Sister, eat and look, this is what my brother just baked. Xiao, are you trying to poison your sister to death? How could I have such a vicious brother like you? Tangyuj smiled and snatched the roasted enoki mushrooms from Murong Ye's hand, with an expression uglier than crying, and made a face at Murong 11. 11, if you still want to live well, just eat it. Murong 11 immediately shook his head and refused, teasing his brother with a smile. Brother, you should keep such delicious food for yourself. I'm not hungry at all, especially when I'm facing your baked goods. That's right, you'd better do it, don't do it yourself. Murong Ye angrily snatched it back from Tangyuj's hand while thinking quietly. It's too exaggerated. Is it that unpalatable? Let me tell you, if you miss such delicious roasted enoki mushrooms, you will miss it for the rest of your life. Don't regret missing the delicious food in the world. Don't ask me to give it to you in the future. You bake, you have to know that next time I bake, it depends on my mood, and whether I bake it for you or not is a question, and besides, well. Murong Ye was chatting non-stop, but Tangyuj raised his hand and stuffed the enoki mushroom in his hand into his mouth. It's delicious, but we are not blessed to enjoy it. Murong Ye chewed the food quickly, and deliberately pretended that it tasted particularly delicious. However, after chewing 3 times, he spit it out uncomfortably into his hand, sticking out his tongue, and his face wrinkled up. Why is it so unpalatable and so painful? What on earth is it made of? It's definitely not enoki mushrooms. It tastes terrible. Murongye turned around and ran away uncomfortably, throwing away the dark food in his hand and grabbing a glass of juice. Everyone who saw the scene burst into laughter. Fortunately, they had the foresight and were not coaxed into eating by Murongye. Otherwise, they would be the ones holding the trash can and spitting out the food in their mouths. On Wang Tianyu's side, he looked at Tanyuj and the others intriguingly and said with a smile. Manman, do you know why Tanyuj doesn't love you? Because he has someone in his heart. End of this chapter.